Hey, it's Karlie.
Hey, it's Shamina.
And
And
we're
we're
emotion.
emotionful.
We gotta figure this out. Are we saying it together? Are we skipping words? Are we letting one person rotate each week?
I don't know. It's different every week.
We like to have a little bit of suspense to this show.
Dun dun dun.
How will Karlie and Shamina introduce themselves?
um, we want to thank our patrons first and foremost. Joanne Stewart, Kevin Gallagher, Therese Gallagher. Look at that. I did not even stutter.
I
No
know.
stutter.
Very
Thank
proud.
you all for your continued support. Um, Today we're going to talk about nostalgia.
Yes. Because ironically, me and Shamina both had nostalgic moments today, and so we're gonna talk about that stuff. How do we want to do we okay, so Shamina,
Well,
you
are you ready
to
to
feel
get
full
emotional?
of emotions.
Let's get emotionally
Do it.
full. So, for those who don't know, which would most likely be everybody besides Karlie, um, I have been a avid reader more frequently than in the past. So I think I read for the first time since I graduated college, maybe 2 years ago, because I could not pick up a book for pleasure for my life because I was like, you will not force me to read anything. And last year I made it a goal. I was like, I want to try to read more. So I read 12 books, and that was like amazing. And then this year, I've read 8, and we're in February. So I think my goal this year is 13. So just one more than I read last year, but I think we're gonna far surpass that. Um, but I I thoroughly enjoy reading, and this is something I was just talking to Karlie about because like back in the day, that's like what we did. We had the oh my god, what was it called? You went to Catholic school, so you probably didn't even do this, but
Wow, way to assume.
we'll see that you would like read and you would get points when you were in like elementary school, and there was like this like program that you could do, and the more books, there were like certain books that you had to read from like this
And
list.
did you
And
get like a pizza party?
yeah,
Catholic
you
school people know what's up too. Thank you.
I
They know
can't
how to
remember what
bribe
the
children to read.
yeah, bribe children. I can't remember what the program
I don't
was
remember either.
called, but that's how like I first started reading. I literally still have books from elementary school that like were the bomb, and I read like off of this list. And I think it
Those
was
are
like
the 8 books that Shamina read so far this year.
yes. That's the nostalgic part of this episode.
No.
um and where was I going with that? Oh, and that was like a nice way for me to like disconnect and escape when I was younger too. And I just really always enjoyed reading. I can remember like I have my Harry Potter books over here, and we grew up with like the fandom. I think I went to the sixth book, like a release party, and that was crazy. I remember when the last book came out and I had pre-ordered it. Harry Potter release party. That shit was insane, man. Like that fandom was so exciting. And Twilight, like the same thing, that fandom I was part of, super exciting. Like finding a series that wasn't done yet and was just like blowing up. and it was just super exciting. And now, everything is just online. So I have this one author that I follow, and she's releasing the third book in a trilogy in September. And she's been, she like released the cover on Instagram just last week, and she did like a little, oh no, she released the first chapter last week. And I was like, it's being released at 3:00. I have to go on and I have to read it. But like before, you'd have to like go to the bookstore and like go get these books. And it was such an experience. But now it's like, oh, click. I don't even have to leave to go get a book. I can just read it online. Mm-hmm. But so anyway, I'm reading this book. It's called From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout, part of a series. I have a particular type of books that I like to read. And I started reading this book 2 days ago, I think. And I got 3/4 of the way through it because I read all day and I didn't want to put it down. I was like, I need to know what happens. This is so exciting. And I love getting trapped in a book. And last night I was reading it before bed, and there was like this huge plot twist. And I looked to my partner and I was like, my book is so good. It's just so good, the plot. And I was like, I have nobody to talk about it with, but it's amazing. And it just brings back these feelings of like being a kid, or like, figuring out like the Harry Potter plot line, and that Snape was the one who killed
spoiler
Dumbledore.
Alert.
Spoiler alert. And that he loved Harry's mom this whole time. After all this time, he always loved her. And just like those moments and how exciting it was to like see it come alive. And I feel like that's been my new spark this year, is like trying to read more and getting trapped into these stories.
Well, it's funny because I'm the same way, and I'm curious about like for me, when I get into a book, I just finished a book today, and I really like romance, cutesy stuff. And so when I'm reading it, like the moment that you realize like the people are like falling for each other, I just get sucked in, and then I can't stop reading it because I'm like, I think I love it because I'm like, that's what I want, because it's just so cute. And so like when I get trapped into a book, like I pictured in my head, like I'm envisioning what I'm reading and seeing it all play out. And I'm just like, oh, that is so cute. But before I get into that, because I'm trying to be like Shamina, I've only gotten 2 books down this year, technically 2.5. I really tried on this one book, but it was so boring that I had to give it up because it was just so boring. So I tossed it. So I got 2.5 books. But going back real quick with the nostalgia. So my moment today with nostalgia was during my lunch break, my dog, I went on the back porch with her and like was playing fetch with her and everything. And then she was like panting really a lot. So I was like, oh, let me turn on the hose and spray her down. And it just brought me back to like when you were a kid and it was a hot summer day and you like would play in the hose with all of your friends. And if I did not have to go back to work, I would have gotten in that hose and played with her. I was so tempted because my roommate was messing with me. He was like, I'm going to spray you. And the only reason I was like, nah, is because I had to go back to work. But then there was like a little puddle and I was like slapping my feet in it. And I was just like, I just want to like not have to go back to work right now because I'm really in this moment of just wanting to like be carefree. And then like, so I was telling Shamina, like it really got me spiraling then after that, because I was like, I love my job. I love the environment that I work in. It's very, very like supportive and everything. But I was like, if I could just have like a week where I could just like, I didn't have to worry about going to work or whatever. And I could be like, I'm going to go play in the hose today, or I'm just going to sit and go swimming all day in the pool or whatever it is. But I was just like, dang, like I was so tempted. And the only reason I did it was because I was like, I know I have to go back to work in like 40 minutes. And I don't want to be all wet and cold. And I mean, I was home, so I could have changed, but it just was like, I have to go back to work. But
Those responsibilities.
I know, man. Like, and I took yesterday off of work to spend with my mom, and she ended up getting sick. So we ended up just hanging out on the couch all day, which is fine. But I was just like, dang.
Did you
But
finish Sweet Magnolias?
yes, yes,
Wasn't
yes.
the ending so good?
Bro, so good. It
Look
was
at
funny 'cause
Blue.
my mom finished it, and then my mom was like, I don't think she realized we finished it, because then she was like, oh, do you want to watch another episode? And I was like, we just finished it. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, that was the end of that season. And she was like, oh my God.
Look at Blue. She looks dead.
That's because I told you I had her, she was like, bro, her tongue was like a mile long. She was all the way like, she was hot. She was hot. She went on the tile floor in the kitchen and just lay down. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Put her ears up.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to like reading books, for me, it does bring back nostalgia of like when I had reading phases. I remember one strong reading phase in middle school because this one author, I just fell in love with all of her books. And I remember one time I read a whole book in a night because I just was like, oh my God. But for me, like I think because of I'm a very like I picture what I see. Like you remember when we were playing Cards Against Humanity at the holiday party and I was dying? It's because I picture shit in my head, and it just makes it so much better. Like if you don't, I think that you guys should try because it just makes it so much better. But
Well, funny thing though, some people aren't that visual and it's really hard for them, like even with like my clients and stuff, I have some clients who I'll try to do like guided imagery and it's really hard from like a visual perspective for them to do that. So it's interesting like how vivid and easily you can picture things.
oh yeah, I for sure. So like with this book that I'm reading, I told you like I like books that are like cute romance, all that stuff. But then when I finished this book today, I was like, it kind of made me sad because it was so cute. And then it's like, but this doesn't happen in real life. And then it just like with my situation, I'm like, it kind of sucks because this is definitely not how it is nowadays with dating. It's this horrible, like, okay, let me just give you an example. I was on a dating app the other day. This guy on his dating app put a picture, it was a meme, and it was like, her, what do you have to offer? And it was him. It was a picture of a dude, not this specific dude, but it was like a cartoon dude with his penis out of his pants wrapped around as like a belt to like show that it was like, oh, and it's like, if that's all that you have to offer, I don't want it. I don't want it. Like what I just really, really wonder what goes through guys' minds when they put that and they're like, that's a winner. That's gonna get me. Like to me, I was talking to my friend and I was like, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's gonna come off that way. I feel like the women you're going to attract with things like that are women with no substance, because I think that I'm a woman of substance. And when I see that, I'm like, that's disgusting. Like, that didn't pull me in to be like, oh, yeah, baby, I want a piece of that. I was just like, ew, like, ew. I literally screenshotted it to say ew to one of my friends because I was like, ew, ew. Anyway, so I feel like sometimes dating apps can be very discouraging to the point where sometimes I'm like, did I really have it that bad? Like, should I, but obviously like, yes, it was, like I was not happy, but you know what I mean? It's just like,
well, I think it's so much harder now, like in our generation and in a pandemic to meet somebody organically, and the fact like you work from home, you don't leave your house.
I do
like
sometimes.
but like not you don't
No.
leave to go to work, you don't have like work events that you're going to. There's like you'll go out and socialize, but it's more so like very limited because of COVID and everything still. And so it's like, how could you meet somebody more organically and like having this what the hell is it called, a meet cute? right? Is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
like that. Yeah.
And so we read about it in books, and we like that feeling of like connection and
Mm-hmm.
spark. And it's funny because the books that I read are all like fantasy, so I'm like, where's my werewolves, where's my witches, where's my vampires? I will never have this love story ever, this doesn't exist. Very
Maybe I
disheartening.
need to read books like that so I know that it can't happen because it's a vampire. Because mine will just be like cutesy, like human beings, and
What you
they
mean
meet
vampires ain't
from
real? You mean I've
a
been waiting? You mean I've been waiting for Edward Cullen for like over 10 years and it ain't happening?
spoiler alert. Hey, maybe they're out there and we're foolish and we don't know. Yeah, Shmi got them fangs. But no, but I agree with you because I think that I'm like a meet in person kind of person, you know?
Me in person kind of person.
Yeah, like I think that because I'm like a person, I'm a personality type of person, like that's what I have to offer. I got a cool personality and I don't think it comes off that way via dating apps. I think maybe you'll think I'm a little weird, but weird's not bad because I am weird. What was there used to be I made up a saying and maybe it wasn't me that made it up, but I can't remember it, so I guess it wasn't that good, but
It's very anticlimactic.
I know. Well, something about being weird, and now I can't remember it, but yeah. But with the reading, I need to I need to listen to your recommendation.
Recommendations. I read series. I like series. I don't like standalone books
I do
because
too. I realized I do too. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm cutting you off because I do too. And I realized that today when I finished the book and I was so pissed that there's no book after this, so I don't know what happens next. It's done. And I'm very upset because I wanted to continue on with their cute little story and see how they unfold, and I will never know.
so your next book, because okay, so this book that I'm almost done with it. The From Blood and Ash, I'll text it to you so you have it. I like the little love story, but it has to be like fast paced, and there has to be like a good plot. And usually the books that I read have a strong like heroine type of character. And I have not found like this book is exciting. And even when there's not like a love thing going on, I'm like, oh my God, like this is insane. Like this is crazy. So you have to read that. And I think like series are so exciting, and like before it was like Harry Potter, and I just can't get away from the Harry Potter because that fandom was just massive and we grew up with it. All the books weren't out, the movies weren't even. I think I was in 5th grade when I think they released the fourth movie, the third or fourth movie, and we used to go to like the midnight premieres, and now they don't even do midnight premieres because they used to have the shootings at the
You
movie
remember
theaters.
our midnight premiere?
Yes. Okay, people. Karlie and I went to go see Breaking Dawn Part 2, the final movie of Twilight.
Can we just put out there that you were the fandom and
Yes.
I was just along for the ride? Like I've never read the books. I obviously seen the movies, but I didn't know. I'm really bad when it comes to that stuff. I've never read Harry Potter. I'm putting it out there. Anyways, so now proceed. I know.
So so we're in the theater, and you all know the scene if you've watched the movie. If you haven't, spoiler alert, it's coming. The scene with Alice's vision when everybody just dies, Carlisle dies, everybody's just dying. Karlie's a real vocal person if you haven't noticed by now. So I can't even remember what you said. You were like, oh my God, or is this real, or something like that. And she said it so out loud. And that wasn't written in the book, I don't think. Was like, they don't show Alice's vision. So that was something they adapted for the movie, which was very well done, by the way. That one, at least. The rest of them, like, I hope they redo those. But anyway, so Karlie comments on it. She's like, no, oh my God. And this girl, I think she was in front of us, she like turns around.
Rude.
What did she say to you?
She said something like, be quiet or something. And I said, excuse me? Girl, you better back up.
Oh my God, it was hilarious. And
we almost went at it in the movie theater. I ain't playing that. Baby.
And I think that was so much fun, like going to the premieres, like the Harry Potter premieres. I used to dress up. I have a wand. I have the Elder Wand. I brought that bitch to school the day that the theater was coming out. I was like, we're gonna do it.
You
We're
would.
gonna do it. I used to have these little like round ass Harry Potter glasses. I got a scarf. I used to go. Even the Twilight movies, I remember. I think it was the third movie I went with my brother and his wife now. I wrote Edward Cullen's initials on my eyes in eyeliner. I had sparkles on my face because we know that they sparkle in the sun. I had my shirt on, my Team Edward. I was dedicated. And
okay, so for when I went with you, we wore shirts,
yeah,
but we didn't do the whole. See, I don't know. I just don't think that I've ever found something to be dedicated like that. Like, I don't.
I feel like it's so different now because again, like I have this new series.
But I'm your age and I never did these things. That's what I'm saying.
But you were a little sheltered.
I went to Catholic school, but I played public basketball league. So come at me. I wasn't that sheltered.
Karlie, when you went into high school, Karlie would wear tank tops with like a shirt over it because that was the style back then. In her senior year video, you see Karlie as a baby freshman wears her tank top. It is up to her collarbone, and each year it got a little bit lower.
In my defense, obviously I'd never been to public school, and my brother terrified me because when I was going in as a freshman, he was a senior, and he was like, if you don't follow dress code, you're going to get sent home, you're going to get detention. And I don't know if he told me or I read it, but they were like, this was whatever. So I made sure that tank top was at my collarbone because I did not get in trouble. Karlie Gallagher did not get in trouble.
Until senior year.
Well, funny story, I did get in trouble freshman year. I got lunch detention over something so stupid. But yeah, I remember then senior year, like I would have holes in my jeans and I had one like right near my pocket and the assistant principal would be like, aren't the holes supposed to be under your knees? And I was like, I don't know what hole you're talking about. And so I would get away with that stuff. But yeah, definitely the shirt lowered as I got older.
But I miss I'm like looking at my books and I feel like there isn't like this huge like fandom. Like people like you'd go into Hot Topic and you'd get like the Harry Potter merch, you'd get the Twilight merch. Like my grandma, this woman, she must have lived in Hot Topic for me because any like birthday or Christmas, she got me the shirts. I had blankets. I had a pillowcase. Like she went all out.
This is my thing though, is I think nowadays it's not books anymore. It's anime, it's movies, it's cartoons, it's shows. Because I mean, I haven't been to Hot Topic in a hot minute, but when I had gone, it's a lot of like cartoon shows. Like I feel like that's the fad now. You know, it's not reading. It's your phone and what you can access and what shows are out. And so I feel like that's where the fans are, and like you binge watch shows, you don't binge read a book series anymore. You know, like we were just talking about like Sweet Magnolias. Now, like that's where it's at now.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, real quick, not to move from reading books, but do you watch Love is Blind? Oh my God. It's this, I'm not going to like talk about it long, but it's a show that I'm embarrassed to say that I love. Like every time I watch it, I cringe, but I have to know what happens next. Like, I'm like, how is this like, but I'm like, what's gonna happen next episode? You know, like but anyways, that's how they get you. It's like that. It's not like, ooh, you like ask a 12-year-old now to read. I feel like they'd be like, okay, where's the iPad to read or something like that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And you're right, it's like the anime that's super big now, but also I feel like the throwback is big. Like Disney is blowing up and becoming so much bigger, or they're remaking like the live action movies, and so it's like we're going backwards, and we're making like the old cool again kind of thing. And I love it because it's like, oh, this is so cool. Or even the shows and movies that we grew up watching, those actors are older now, so like now they're coming back on and like doing cameos and different things like that. So I think it's a really interesting time with like films and TV shows, but it's also like, where's my book fandom, because I love it and I miss it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious of like, it's gonna have to be something big again, something like a Harry Potter series or a Twilight, like, and so question, how many books were out with Twilight? Because was Twilight big before the first movie was made? Like, did you know about the book series before you saw the first movie? You did?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because that came out, I was in 8th grade, so that was like 2009.
The movie or the book? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the movie.
The first one, Twilight.
Oh yeah. And I think the books came out before that, because I'm pretty sure that I read the books beforehand, but the fourth one, Breaking Dawn, that had not been out yet when they made the first movie. I don't think she had written the last book, or it was released yet. So I think that's like the exciting part, is when the movie started getting released, and that was like what it was with Harry Potter. And but the book series wasn't even finished yet. And I think we kind of saw that a few years ago with Game of Thrones. Like that was starting to get huge, and the books aren't finished. I never read those books because I was like, they're not done. I can't handle that. He may never finish them. But I think we have like these moments where we start seeing these things. And now it's even so popular on like Instagram, like Bookgram, and people are just like recommending. You haven't seen that?
Not on Instagram, but on TikTok. I've sent you like books to read and stuff.
Yeah. But they're like doing that on Instagram now, and it's like, oh, if you like this, then check these out, or this category, and these kind of fit in there. So that's where I get some of my recommendations from.
Why don't you ever send me any of that?
How many books have I told you that you gotta read already and you haven't read?
I know.
I have nobody to talk about any of this stuff with.
Well, I just have to sit. You didn't read so friggin' fast, my God.
But I gotta know.
I know. I say, and because I'm like you had mentioned, like, it has to keep you excited. I'm the exact same way. Like, if I read a book, I'm literally giving it, like, this past book that I told you I only read half of it. That is the longest that I have ever given a book before I was like, screw it. I can't do it. Usually you get a chapter, maybe two. If you cannot pull me in that first chapter, I'm most likely not reading that book. And not saying that it has to be a romance, but like you said, it has to keep me excited. I want to know what's going to happen. Like, I got to be like, oh my God. And if in that first chapter you don't do that, like, I get you got to like lay the scene, but you got to pull me in, baby, because If not, I'm putting the book down and I'm not reading it again. Because and I think like the book that I finished today, it was really good. But I would just read like a chapter or two at night. But again, when I told you the moment I hit the part of the book, which was like a little bit halfway, that I knew like, okay, their feelings for each other are something's about to go down. That's when I started reading like 5 chapters a night. I would read like 8 chapters a night because I was like, I gotta know. I started reading it like when I had when I had like a slow time during work, I'd bring the book downstairs with me to read it. And I finished it today during work because I was like, ooh, I gotta finish this off. So like for me, that's how I am. But I definitely have to, you gotta keep me, and I like reading because I don't always want to be like on my technology and stuff. But you gotta there was this one book I read called The Proposal, and I want to look who the author was because I think she has a couple others called like The Wedding Date or whatever, but I really liked that book. I thought that book was really good and it kept me interested like from the beginning. I'm going to write that down as a note actually.
And I think like reading gives like such a sense of accomplishment, like when I think back, I'm like, I've read 8 books and it's the middle of February, like 8 books, that's a lot of books, that's a lot of pages. And it's exciting to like finish something, and it's like, yeah, we get that gratification from a show, but it's like, okay, then we find the next one and then we do the next thing and the next thing. But it's like, I sat here and I read this book, this fat ass book, and and it's just exciting. And I'm really excited to see how many books I'm actually going to read this year. I know I'm going to make it past 13 because my author is releasing one in September. I also, if there are like movies that are coming out and I've already read the books, then I'll go back and I'll reread just to like refresh and make sure that I know, or I'll just go back and like reread old books. That's what I did last year. I was like, oh, I read this in college and I read a whole series all over again because I was like, I love it. I have a problem.
For me, I agree with you that reading's like an accomplishment, but for me, it's like an accomplishment in the sense of not being on technology. Like obviously I enjoy the book and everything, but I think nowadays like everything we do revolves around technology in some sense, that when I finish a book or even when I'm reading a book, it makes me feel accomplished of almost like you said, of like bringing back that nostalgia of like when things were a little simpler, like times were simpler in the sense of like you didn't have a phone at the tip of your hand. Like in elementary school and even in middle school. I mean, I got my first cell phone in 6th grade, but like I didn't use it. I literally would call my mom when I got out of school to tell her I was on my way. And I think that was I don't think I started using a cell phone to like text until 8th grade. But now, it's just blown up that it's like almost when you do something that isn't revolving around technology, it's like, oh, wow, like, hell yeah, I can't be archaic. No, but you know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, like the other day when I read all day, I was like, did I turn the TV on today? I don't think I watched any TV today.
Yeah. I think it's, like, because I was just thinking like even something as simple as cooking, sometimes you look your recipe up on your phone, like it just, yeah. Anyways, that's why I like reading, and that's why I'm trying to do like read 1 book a month. So obviously with it being like the middle of February, I was like, what day is it? The middle of February. I'm already at 2 books, so I'm like, okay, I feel good. And I need maybe this weekend I'll make a library run.
Yes, I will send you my recommendations because the books that I read, you will like.
All right. Do not disappoint me, but yeah, send me some and I'll go to the library. The Liberace. Who says that? Where did I get that from?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Someone does. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's good for your soul to like kind of separate and not always be available in a sense. I feel like when we're always on our phone, and I know that I'm really bad, and I feel like I've kind of fallen back into being always on my phone, because I even catch myself at work, like when it's slow, I just grab my phone as a, like, that's like my escape kind of, or like, you know, like just what I do. So I want to like not do that. And yeah, it's just, I just think it's good for the soul to like have that little bit of like quote unquote cleanse of, you know, taking a step back, get
I think
back to the
it's
2000s.
I really like reading for two reasons. One, I think it just fascinates me, like a human being wrote this story. Like this is so good, and somebody came up, you know, like the Harry Potter series and like how things kind of tie together. Like somebody wrote that series, and it's just amazing how people can be such poetic storytellers. And so I appreciate reading just from that perspective alone, is like you sat here and you wrote all of these words, and like you know what I mean? It's just like
Not
magic.
only did they write them, but they literally came up with that story. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, yeah, you wrote this and it's very, but the fact that like you came up with this. And I think for me when I read, it reminds me how much I like to write. I don't even think that I knew that until recently, that I was like I think maybe since I started journaling about a year-ish ago, year and a half ago, I'm like, I really like writing, you know? And I don't think that I realized that, but then when I read, it reminds me, and I'm kind of like, I want to write something, you know? And I think because like you said, I don't really struggle to visualize things. Um I think, you know, it would be fun to like come up with something, but yeah, it's just I agree with you. It's very impressive to think like someone came up with this and wrote this, and like I cannot stop reading it, you know?
It's inspirational. I think that's the word that came to mind as you were talking, is like it's very inspiring. Like I could do this, or I want to create something like this. And
Mhm.
I really like that you can get transported into like this new world that's been created. And that's something that I recognize when I get into a good book, is like I have this flow. I don't even know how much time passes, or if I want time to pass really fast, I pick up a really good book, because it's like, oh, I read 2 chapters and it's been like 5 hours kind of thing. Whereas, you know, I'm sitting there binge watching a show that I know is half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour. It's like, okay, I got to get through this. But just reading, I get into like this moment of like timelessness and mindfulness. And I really, really like that. Like that feeling is very intoxicating to me.
Mhm.
And I I like being transported into somewhere else, you know, like fully immersing myself in that, which is why I like series so much, because you get so much into the world, or you get so much more into detail instead of like a one and done kind of thing. I'm like, okay, that's it. But then afterwards, I get so excited, and I'm like, you know, I have to like research stuff, or I'm like, when's the next book coming out? Or like, is this it? Or I'll follow the author on social media for like any updates or anything, just to like keep me in that world.
Well, I think one, the difference between like reading and watching a show for me is when I'm reading, I'm a lot more present, whereas when I'm watching a show, I'll be on my phone. I'm not as engaged. Whereas when I'm reading, I can't read and look at my phone. I have
Right.
to read. And then also I think, I mean, I don't think that I've ever read a series of books, but I do think I would like it. But then I think I'm like a very engaged person, in the sense of like I put my whole being into something when I do it. And like even this book, when it finished, like my heart hurt a little bit, you know, because I was like, oh, like, you know, like it made me sad, one, that it was over, but I almost feel like I am with that character, you know, like I love books that make you feel like you're that person, and they help you feel what they're feeling because they explain it so well and describe it so well. But then the downfall to that is you do feel it and it hurts sometimes. And then it's like, that broke my heart, you know? But it's like, okay.
Yeah, I almost have like a hangover when I finish a series because I have to have time to like decompress and like come
And
back to
process.
reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like come back and I'm like, okay, I can be okay with like how this ended. Or, you know, with my one series, I'm waiting on the last book. It's like, I'll it was so upsetting. Like afterwards, I was like, I need to know like what happens. And then I found out that there was another book, and I was like, there's hope. I have hope. Like I just have to wait. I don't know if I can wait that long. And even when I'm reading this book now, like I finished, I stopped at a place last night, and it took me a couple of hours to even like wind down from the emotions that I was feeling enough to go to bed and be calm, because I was like, I am jacked up right now. Like I want to read, I need to know, but my eyes hurt so bad. I was like, I have a headache. I can't keep reading. But I have to like give myself time to wind down because I get so emotionally invested.
Well, you know, I just thought about the last series books that I read, and it was the one that you,
The After.
yes, and I never finished it. And I think that I didn't finish it because one, it was kind of like with what I was going through, but two, um, it like it was written well, but I think maybe it was written so well that I couldn't stand the dude. He just pissed me off, and then I got mad at the girl because I was like, "What are you doing? I can't read and hear you keep going through this same thing over and over and over again." It was a cycle, and I was just like, I'm mad at y'all. And so I'm not going to finish because you're being dumb and he's being dumb, and y'all are just continuing this stupid cycle. And so Shamina ended up having to just tell me how the series ends because I was like, I'm done. I can't. I think I got through like 2.5 of the books. And like, how many books are there total? 4. Yeah. So I got through 2.5. And the second book, I want to say I read in like 2 or 3 days, and that's a fat ass book. And it was so good. But then that third book, it was just like, y'all didn't learn nothing. And it just really frustrated me.
No, I think that series is frustrating, but it does like come around in the end. And the third book is where everything turns around, which is why I was so frustrated when you're like, I can't. I'm like, you just have to keep reading just a little bit more.
It was the same. I can literally still picture in my head around like, and I can literally like envision what it looked like, but around where I stopped reading when what was his name?
Hardin.
Oh, I want to say Hayden. When Hardin and the girl, when
Tessa.
he was, yeah, Tess, when they were at his parents' like cabin or whatever, and it was just back and forth, and I was just like, oh my god. And so I was just like, I'm done. Like,
And then they released, so this is the After series by oh my god, what is her
I
name?
think the books are
Anna
way
Todd.
better than the movies.
Well, the third movie, that was pretty good because you were like, oh, did this happen? I don't remember. Did this happen? And I was like, yeah, it did.
Yeah, but I feel like the movies are like, and this is the thing too for me of like, I think I prefer to read books before, and if I've already seen the movie, I don't know if I'll go back because I've read the books before seeing the movie. When you watch the movie, at least with this series, you see how they condense it so much, and I feel like it's like you left out so many crucial components, and then it makes me not really like. I personally feel like the movies were okay, but from because those books had a lot of detail. So then from what I know that I've read, I'm like, this movie should have been like 3 hours for y'all to fit in everything, and it's an hour and a half, and I'm getting like a half-ass made movie. You know, like that's my opinion.
No, I wholeheartedly agree that adaptation from book to movie, obviously I'm not in the industry at all, but I get really frustrated because even with the Harry Potter series, I mean, there's 7 books in that 7 books in the series. And I used to remember because I'd read the books and then we'd watch the movie. And my mom had not read the books before we'd go see the movies. So she had seen the movies first. And I remember we drive home, it's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, they left out this didn't happen, how could they not include this, like this was pivotal in the book. And I used to get so frustrated because it's really interesting how they change that adaptation. Or I think I was watching, I don't know if it was like the 20th anniversary of the movies that had just come out in the new year, but or some type of extra, but the director was talking about that final scene between like Harry and Voldemort and how they had changed the location where they fought because it was supposed to be done in the Great Hall, but they changed it to like outside, and trying to have this like symmetry connecting everything together and like them morphing together kind of thing. And I get the creative component they were going with, but it was like, this was gold, keep it the way that it was, this was gold.
But why do they do those adaptations? Because I feel like the people who, like you say, are fandoms, is that are fans, whatever, and they've read the book, I feel like it leads to disappointment in the movie. Like, okay, I'm curious, like you said, when you and your mom would go, you would read the movie, or you would read the book, but your mom wouldn't. So would you guys have conflicting perspectives of like your mom being like, that was really good, and then you being like, it was good, but they left out this. See, like that's what I'm saying. Like, because that's why I just
go ahead.
I just feel like if I see a series, like, okay, for instance, Twilight, like you're telling me like the books are so good, but I just feel like because I've seen the movies already, when I read the books, I mean, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's harder for me because I'm like, I've already seen the movies and like, it's going to throw me off.
True. Yeah, I get it. But also the books always have so much more information. And I think Twilight, hands down, the books are so much better than the movies. Hands down, so much better than the movies. And I think it adds a whole different component to it, because there's been let me think of like okay, so there's this show that I watch, it's on Amazon, it's called A Discovery of Witches, and my mom told me about it, and she's like, oh, watch this show, there's a book series that went along with it. So I watched the first season, which is basically the first book, and then I went back, and I ended up reading the first book, which usually I don't. I just skip to the second one because I want to like just keep reading and figure out what happened. But this one I did, and I was like, wow, there's so much more like nuances and details that they don't include. But if you read the books, then you pick up on it in the show. Even in Twilight, like with the apple, like the apple like falling on Edward's foot, and then he like keeps it in his hand or whatever, or just like these certain details.
I don't remember that.
I have a problem.
No, I'm saying you probably remember it because you've read the books, and like you said, it in the books, like books are a lot more detailed and they make you be like, that's important. But like for me, not reading the books and I see that, I'm like, that's insignificant. Like there's nothing significant about that. But you are probably like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I miss those days where it was like, I can be carefree and I can just read all day. And now it's like, like you said, oh, I have to go to work, I can't play in the puddles, I have to go back to work. And just being part of something more that like connects us, that's not social media.
Yeah. And I think like even like it's like, oh, you have the weekends, but they go by so quickly, and you have so many other responsibilities. Like I have to clean this weekend, and I have to go shop, like grocery shopping, and and then it's like, when do you have that time? It just goes by so quickly. But yes.
So I could talk about this all day. If any of y'all want any of my book recommendations, let me know. Comment below. or on our Instagram, Emotionful Pod, or on Facebook, Emotionful Podcast.
But we also want to hear your recommendations too.
Maybe I'll post them on our social. Once I finish a book, I'll create a little highlight on our story and I'll be like, Shamina's book recommendations, because it's usually the books that I read that I would recommend.
But also we want to hear our listeners' recommendations if you have any.
Yes. Any series, standalones, give it to me so I can add it to my list for this year. So that is our challenge to you, is let us know your book recommendations.
What book do you read that brings you back, gives you some nostalgia?
Yes. Let us know.
Let us know.
Below. All right.
Well, I enjoyed our conversation. When we were talking, I looked and I was like, it's been 40 minutes. I felt like we were flying by, but yes. So, we want to hear from you guys.
We do. We've had a couple of comments on YouTube. I keep forgetting to tell you, but we have had
I'm going to look now. Where's my phone? I don't know.
So we will see you all same time, same place next week. We hope that you are feeling full of nostalgia.
Yes, I loved that.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.